guys, welcome back. As you can see from today's video, we're going to be talking about shirts, specifically how to kind of break in a newer shirt to get it feeling a little bit more vintage and feeling a little bit more worn in. For those of you who don't know, I collect t-shirts. Primarily these days I do collect mainly vintage. I don't really buy a lot of new t-shirts anymore unless it's a more current band or it's a really cool print that I'm not able to find vintage that I would have liked to. I've seen a couple of videos on this before throughout YouTube where people are like trying to like thin out a t-shirt, get it to look and feel more vintage, and I've tried those methods and they just do not work. There's one where someone like put their shirt in like a bucket of salt overnight and yeah, I don't know, didn't do much for me except for just a little bit of fading. But this method I'm going to show you guys is the most effective that I've tried. If you guys have other tips and techniques, feel free to share them. This is just a combination of a bunch of stuff I found on YouTube and a little bit of my own little tips. So yeah, if this is something you guys would be interested in, then keep on watching. You really don't need too many things to do this little DIY. All you really need are nail files, a pumice stone, which is like one of those rocks that you scrub the bottom of your feet with, fabric softener. The one I use, I believe, is by, is it All or Downy? Ultra Downy, that's the one I use. You'll see it in the, I'm going to show you guys how to do it, so you'll see that in a clip in just a little bit. But Ultra Downy, some type of bucket, bathtub to soak your items in, and yeah, that's it. All you really do is just use these abrasive methods to just scruff up your t-shirt. You soak it in fabric softener overnight, you give it a wash and dry like you normally would, and the shirt comes out a lot thinner, a lot softer, a lot more lived in. And in terms of being lighter, especially if you're working with a black t-shirt, it's just amazing for when it's super hot out, which is ideal for me because I do live in California. I'm using nail files for this video, but I also picked up like this electric nail file, which comes with like these little tips right here. And I used the most coarse option on this, and this is really, really great if you want to kind of get around the neck of the shirt or other hems and get into that graphic a little bit better without straining your fingers and hands, because this is like a workout. Like, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy to scrub into your shirt. So the shirt I'm going to be working on today that I've already finished is an Alien Sex Fiend shirt. I actually have it right here. I'm going to be trying it on for you guys so you can see like a before and after and all of that. It looks quite boxy on, and although it's comfortable, the fabric isn't quite as soft and lived in as I prefer for my shirts. As you can see, it just kind of gapes at the side, but it just sits in a way that isn't super flattering, for me at least. So it's fine, but it's not what I like my shirts to look and feel like, so I want to change this one up a bit. It is one of my favorite shirts, and I will note that I have worn and washed this one several times, but it's holding up a lot nicer than I'd like it to. So by using this method, I kind of want to wear in the graphic a little bit more, and again, just make the shirt softer and have it lay a little bit nicer and a little bit more vintage. Here's a close-up of this super crisp, resilient graphic that will not fade no matter how many times I wash and dry it. I do like a little bit of a distressed look to my graphics. I don't want it totally gone because that kind of defeats the purpose, that I'd hate to lose some of the really cool details in here. But by doing this, I want to kind of mess with the graphic a little bit more, and who knows, maybe I'll throw a hole in it or something, but this gives you a little bit of a closer idea of what the texture is like. Alright guys, we are now on the ground. I did want to walk you through a few of the tools that I've got set up here, in case I haven't already, but firstly you're going to need one of these. This is just a pumice stone. I think that's how you say it. You can find these at most beauty supply stores. I got mine at Target. It's basically one of those things that you use to like scrub the undersides of your feet. If you cannot tell, I've worn mine out quite a bit because I've done this method on a couple of shirts already, but get yourself one of these. I like to grab a few different types of nail files. This one here is super coarse and rigid. This one's kind of a medium, and then this one is just a little bit of a finer grit. As long as it's not like a glass nail file, these really cheapy ones will totally do the trick. And I always like to use just a rag when I actually hold the stone or the file, just because you're going to be doing this for quite a bit of time and it can be pretty stressful and strainful on your hands. And we won't be using this just yet, but lastly, you're going to need a fabric softener. I picked the Ultra Downy Free and Gentle. This one doesn't have any fragrances, which you're going to be using quite a lot of this, so you don't want it to be fragrance heavy or else your shirts are just going to be super fragrant and not everyone wants that. So let's just go ahead and get started. Basically, all you do is just take your tools and just scrub them up against your shirt. You might be like, oh my god, are you really going to do this across this entire shirt? And the answer is yes. This is not very easy or simple, but it does a really, really good job of getting the effect I want. So after doing it a few times, you'll notice that residue. Don't worry, it does wash off. And I just grab a feel of the shirt just to see how much that really penetrated, and if in this case, not much at all, considering this is relatively a new shirt. I've only had it for maybe about a year or so. So there's still quite a bit of wear that needs to get into it, but you can't really tell on camera, but I can already tell that light is starting to come through the shirt, through the fibers, which usually means that it is being thinned out. So I like to do the front portion of the shirt first, then I'll turn it inside out, do the inside, and then go back right side up and add details as I want to. So I'll go ahead and just record myself doing most of that. Might not record the whole thing, it does take a while, but it'll kind of give you an idea of what the process should look like. Okay guys, I'm pretty much done. I'm exhausted, but this already feels a lot lighter and a little bit thinner than it did before. Obviously it's like covered in this powder from all the filing, but what I'm going to go ahead and do now is just stick it in my bathtub, fill it with a little bit of water and a bunch of fabric softener. I don't have any like tubs or anything that I could do this in, but my bathtub works just fine. I'll just go ahead and throw this in the tub now and maybe do one more shirt. So I'll see you there. Okay, I lied. I did a couple of more shirts. As you can see, the water is a little bit white and murky from all of the fabric softener that I used. But yeah, everything is just kind of dumped in my bathtub. I just didn't want to waste the water, so I figured I'd soften up a couple of other shirts as well as do touch-ups on ones I've already had. So I'm just gonna basically just let this sit here maybe overnight, and then tomorrow I'll go ahead and do a load of laundry and see how everything turns out. Okay, it's now morning. Most of the water is either soaked up by the t-shirts or probably just trickled down the drain even though it was plugged, but it's time to grab all of these as well as some other black laundry and just go ahead and give it a run through the washer and dryer. So here's the shirt on after modification. On camera you can't really tell as much, especially with the graphic. It's still showing up quite bright. I honestly might go in and file it down a bit more, but the sleeves are moving with my arms a lot nicer. They're not standing out as stiff as they were before, and it feels so much softer. Let me come forward a little bit and show you guys. You can kind of tell around here on the neck where I filed down, it's just thinned out a bit. Same with the shoulders, they're just dropping a little bit better. And then the graphic as well, which I may have showed you at another clip already. I've gone ahead and scuffed that up too. I'm actually gonna lift my shirt for this portion. And I'm sure you can see that, but the actual fabric is so thinned out that light is actually going through it a lot nicer than it would have if I had not filed down the fiber. So it's a little bit patchy, but in most sections of the shirt you can tell that it's a lot thinner. And yeah, overall the main reasoning for this is just to make it a little bit softer, make it sit nicer. You can see that it just lays a bit better. I feel like in the first clip it kind of bunched up right here, so in this case I think it's fitting quite nicely, so I'm very happy with it. I still do want to go over the graphic maybe one more time, but other than that I am quite pleased. I did this method kind of to this Misfits shirt. This one's already vintage. It's from the year 2000, so it's worn in enough, but not quite as thin and soft as I'd liked it, so I went ahead and did it on this, and it took care of the graphic quite nicely as well. I don't think you can tell on camera, it still looks quite crisp, but it's just a lot softer, which I love. I am due for an updated band tee video. I'd like to do one hopefully by the end of this year. I'd really like to get a 2020 update in. I have so much more vintage. A lot of my shirts in the past, including, well, this one I actually got off of Etsy because I loved the graphic and I couldn't find anything like this in stores. But most of the shirts I would buy were like from Brandy and Hot Topic, and I was just collecting this mass amount of shirts. They just don't fit the way a vintage shirt would, which is why I use this method to get them softer and more comfortable. But these days I just prefer buying vintage. They're definitely more expensive, harder to come by for sure, but I'm very happy with them. And it's like my little niche right now. I hope this video was somewhat helpful to you guys. I've been looking for a way to do this that actually works for so long, and this is the method that I've settled for. I have seen one other YouTuber mention that he would put his shirts in the dryer and add tennis balls. I personally haven't had that. I feel like it would work. I end up throwing my shirts into the dryer with denim, and I feel like that roughs it up enough anyways. But also keep that in mind if you want a little bit more toughness on your shirts. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave me comments with your recommendations for breaking in your shirts if that's something that you're into. And if you have questions for me or video ideas for the future, I'm open to that as well. I hope you all have an awesome day, night, whatever, and take care. Until next time.